Hi everyone, it's Arminder here. Today I'm going to share some thoughts on the brand new rum from Alambique Serrano. It's the Altos Esteres. This is a high ester pot still rum, unaged. It's the first edition. I think it might be like an annual thing where they release a new edition, presumably. Bottle at 63.8% ABV, made from the Java cane varietal, like all their releases. And so what's noteworthy here is that it is a high ester rum. It is the first kind of branded as such. I don't know if any of the blends or even some of the single casks are made with some high ester rum, but they haven't advertised it. This is like the first time they're advertising it on the label. And so that cane juice goes through, for this particular release, a very extended fermentation, 25-day fermentation, wild fermentation, creating all sorts of big, bold esters and flavor compounds. And so what I figured I'd do is share some tasting notes and maybe try comparing it to the Cartier 30 as well, as that is the other kind of yearly available unaged release from Alambique Serrano, which also itself goes through, I guess, batches. The first release was the first batch, and then I think this, what I have here, is the second batch. On the back it says batch number 0924. So I think going forward, starting with this year, the 2025 version, they will actually list the edition. So I believe the next batch will say third edition. Don't quote me on that. I feel like I'm not making that up. I feel like I've seen the label online somewhere. But yeah, currently available, the Cartier 30, technically batch 2. Obviously there's going to be variation batch to batch. All right, so let's get into how the Altos smells. And kind of, it's a bit of a surprise, but actually kind of not. But the thing that it really immediately evokes is a bit of sweet baking spice, right? You're thinking, unaged cane juice rum. That's not probably what you're thinking the rum is gonna smell like. But man, it really does evoke nutmeg, cinnamon. I don't want to say vanilla necessarily, but there's a sweet aroma here, which is quite nice. There is kind of underneath there like a slight vegetal bell peppery kind of thing. And that is one of the very first notes I ever got on the very first Alambique Serrano rum I had, right? So I think, that was 2 years ago now, whatever it was. I guess either blend number 1 or cask number 1. I was given a sample, and I remember when I was tasting it, I know this is just the aroma, but when I was tasting it, I was like, wow, I get like this sweet bell pepper thing, almost like, I think at the time I said caramel covered bell pepper. And this is really evoking some of those same kind of notes on the aroma. And I didn't kind of say it up front, but yeah, it is a very expressive aroma. It's not shy. It's quite nice. The thing to caveat is it's not like a Parnubes, right? Because I think when you think of like vegetal cane juice rums, I think for a lot of people, Parnubes is a reference point. That to me is a lot more aggressive in the vegetal savory quality. This is less that. Quite nice. And actually, before I sip it, let's go into the Cartier 30, because why the hell not? And smell this. So this one, I had a slight more tinge of alcohol fumes. I didn't really get a whole lot of that here. This is higher in ABV. This is 71.4 versus the 63.8. So there's an element of that. But the thing I get is I get more traditional cane here. What I would describe that cane note is a little danky cane note. There are some high bright notes of cane, but to me there are some more danky notes as well, which I think is kind of really interesting. Yeah, I'm not really picking up anything necessarily vegetal here. There's a funkiness here, but not Jamaican funk. It's not necessarily fruit funk. It's almost like a funky cheese. I don't know if it's like a blue cheese or something like that. At the same time, there's a little bit of freshness here. Like the fresh water aroma that you get in certain cane juice rums. Less the taste of grass, but more of like fresh water, like dewy water on grass, blades of grass. That's kind of what it's evoking, but just a bright freshness while still having that danky cane note. Yeah, very different. There's not necessarily a whole lot of overlap on the aroma, which I think is kind of interesting. All right, let's talk about how it tastes. We'll start with the Altos. That's so good. I really like that. So I get a lot of what I talked about on the aroma, I'm getting the palate, where there is a sweetness, It's not caramel, it's not vanilla. I don't know what it is, but there is also that vegetal, savory, herbal, bell pepper thing. I don't want to say tomato as much, but bell pepper, maybe a faint little onion situation happening. Really nice. And I am still getting like some sweet baking spice flavors, right? Getting a little nutmeg, I'm getting some cinnamon. Great mouthfeel and so drinkable at 63.8. It drinks lighter than that in terms of ABV. You don't feel it, doesn't feel harsh or intense. Great finish. The thing that I'm getting here, this reminds me so much of the flavors of a lot of the Alambique rums, the aged stuff. There's a certain characteristic or flavor profile, if you will, that immediately reminds me of some of the rums. They're not all of them. Some of the blends, presumably the ones that have pot distillate in them, since this is all pot still rum. Hell of a rum. Really, really, really dig that. All right, let's switch over to the Cartier 30 and just to compare it. Cheers. The Cartier, definitely a little more intense. Obviously a lot higher in ABV, 71 again. And you definitely feel that when comparing it to that. Also kind of dries out your mouth a little bit, but good. What I'm getting here is some brininess. I feel like with the Aroma, I'm getting some cane, drier cane maybe. There's also a bit of vinegary kind of note here, which I really like. That's nice. Minerality, a little bit of rocks on the Cartier. There's a note of like lemon pledge, where it's not just a lemony note, but it's also a bit of a chemically note. Not strong, not intense, not overwhelming, not jarring, but there's a little tinge of that. Really nice, heavier mouthfeel, but then eventually, given the high ABV, everything kind of dries out, in my opinion. But like with the Aroma, two different things, two different experiences, and I love that. I love how different these two rums are as experiences, both in terms of flavors and aromas, but also kind of just texturally and like kind of what it does to inside your mouth. You know, I like that they're different in that way. I think it's really tough for me to pick one over the other. They are so different, and I think in different scenarios, I'm gonna prefer one over the other. But happily would be so stoked to drink, frankly, either one of them, you know? But yeah, I'm a huge fanboy. I mean, you know, and I want to say, you know, obviously I have a lot of these age expressions I love, like the Pico Canoia, the Tres Años, love the blend number 5 for Prize Fighter, but these might be my two most favorite Alambique Serrano rums, period. Yeah, let's go with that. I think so. I just love how vibrant and engaging they are, and just they feel like these very singular experiences without any of the aging kind of getting in the way. And it just, yeah, I don't know. So there you go. Those are my thoughts on the new Altos Esteres. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. From Alambique Serrano. And thanks so much for watching. Catch y'all next time. Cheers.